What up, fam? I am Dr. De Luna, and you are listening to Drop It Like It's Doc podcast. Today, I have on Jess, also known as the Loving Guide, but she's not a love and light babe. No, she is not. She is authentic, down to earth, and raw. Today, we talk all about spirituality, about how to set boundaries, and truly, this conversation is something that my childhood self should have listened to. Enjoy. Hi, Jess. I am so excited to have this conversation with you, and truly because I don't know where it's going to go. So that very much excites me.
Making my heart palpitate a little.
You already made my heart palpitate just by showing up, giving gifts, just already pouring love out. And
I love language.
That's what you do. You are the loving guide.
I try.
Yes. So for those of my listeners and viewers that do not know this goddess, this is Jess. She is an intuitive, and we are going to talk all about your journey and how you got to be here. But before we get there, I always like to share with you why I'm having you on and how you've already inspired me and changed my life. And I remember the first class that you took of mine at Reunify Yoga, and it was a class in which I was sharing about my divorce. Before class, I always share something raw and true to me, and I don't sit in front of the class and pretend that I am the spiritual guru. I just share real raw shit, and it took a really long time for me to even say the word divorce, and I shared it, and I could just feel your loving embrace through your eyes and your compassion, and we connected on that immediately. You opened up about your life, about your relationships, about the work that you do, and you have always been so raw, so authentic. I really do feel like we're related, and I say that as a joke, but you feel so similar to me energetically, and I think it's because you just don't give a fuck in the best way. And because of that, you have changed my life, and you gave me the safety to show up in a space when it's a vulnerable space to share in front of a room, but having people like you receive those words and then reflect them back to me was medicine for me as well. So thank you for being a part of my life, my community, and for being the open, raw, true woman that you are.
Thank you. I remember that moment. And I didn't, you want to impact people in your day to day. And I didn't know how much I impacted you. So thank you for sharing. That's what I want to do all the time.
Yes.
With boundaries, but
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so thank you.
You're welcome. And at that time, I didn't even know the work that you did. I just felt that from you energetically. So with that being said, what do you do, Jess?
So what do I do? I think in its simplest form, I meet people where they're at in really bizarre, fascinating, traumatic, interesting circumstances of life. They're awakening, they're deconstructing, they're confronting themselves, they're going through a traumatic breakup, a loss, they're in these kind of catalytic crises. Not always, but that's primarily where I meet people. And I just offer a safe, hopefully, safe, shame-free, non-judgmental space to just share and be vulnerable. And I just help them resource. I just listen. I have a lot of life experience, a lot of knowledge. There's just a lot of information that I have that comes through my sieve. And just open up and connect and help them with their blocks and help them figure out why they're actually needing somebody else's help with their life circumstances. So, and just lovingly guide them is the goal, and to, teach them how to be loving guides in their life. And so with that, there's, intuitive abilities, there's practical life experience, knowledge, and just showing up and helping them figure out what's next.
Incredible. And a big piece of what you just said was that you listen. You listen and you hold a safe container without shame. And so many people need that. They need to be able to speak without shame, to say anything that they need to without shame. And something else that I love about you is that you're not a love and light fairy.
No.
Because I actually can't stand those at all. And there's a lot of them in our community, I would say, or just anyone that's trying to work through their shit. Sometimes people are like, oh, well, your trauma is just a reflection of, just bullshit. That isn't true. And I love about you that you're willing to sit in the pain with people and guide them lovingly.
And that's primarily because I've done it for myself.
Yeah.
And I think it's dangerous to do it in any other way. I mean, you have to be able to have met yourself so deeply to be able to show up for others and hold that space without getting affected. And yes, the love and light is an unfortunate epidemic of our spiritual community. And, you know, it shows up outside of consciousness, outside of spirituality. We see people bypassing all of the time. And it is part of the process. I definitely was full of shit before I dealt with my shit. I thought I was awesome. I thought I was the queen, and that because I had this career and I did this and I was successful in these certain other aspects of my world, and also in my relationship being the less of the two train wrecks, allowed me to run, you know, my own program around who I was. And yeah, and that all came crumbling down.
Isn't that a humbling experience when we think we have our shit together and then the universe puts a little bomb on you and shatters you to pieces, and then you have to sit in the bottom of the bucket?
Yeah. Yep.
Pull yourself out of it.
But first you try to find somebody to save you.
Yes, please.
Or you're like, please make this change, make this go away. And the universe is like, sorry, this is on you.
Yeah.
Power's in your hands.
And that is the key, right? The power is in your hands, but also we have free will. So we have free will to be able to sit in that for as long as we want to, until we realize that we can stand up and crawl out of it. But I think a lot of individuals in this world, you know, no one likes to sit in discomfort because it doesn't feel good, but that is truly where we learn who we are. And I think that in the darkest period of my life, which was really fucking dark, when I look back, it's almost comical, like how many things happened at once. But
right,
even in all those moments, I would just reach on things that made me comfortable. And things that made me comfortable were my home. Oh, it was filled with mold. My husband. Oh, we got divorced. My mom, she moved back to New York. My community. And then COVID happened and shut everything down. So the universe forced me to be by myself, truly by myself in a way that I've never been, that I wouldn't have chosen on my own. But in that loneliness, I found the love from myself that I always needed. So now I don't even feel like I need a partner. Of course I want one, but I don't need one anymore.
Yeah. I mean, that's drawing a blank.
You know, just sometimes so many words come in, they funnel through.
So many thoughts while you were talking, and I just drew a complete blank.
It happens. It totally happens. The blankness. And there's, you know, you're kind of on stage right now. So that happens as well.
Okay. Keep talking. I'm going to get it back.
I will keep talking. I was just talking about how my life fully shattered. You know, a good universal slap across the face or slap across the booty if you want to have fun with it. But usually it feels a little bit more aggressive than a little cute tap on the booty.
And we know kind of in our society, there's so much to tantalize us with coping and distracting, and also within the medical community of medicating. So it seems like it is a heroic act to sit in that discomfort.
Yes, beautifully said. It is a heroic act to sit in that discomfort. And I think that even my patients know I'm not a huge fan of psychoactive medications because they are manipulating your neurochemistry in a way that is addictive. Whether you're aware of it or not, it is quite addictive. And then your body gets used to that. And it can be, I've worked with people that have been in very dark places. And yes, that helped them get out of a dangerous, sticky zone, but you're never going to fully get out of it until you let yourself feel what is weighing you down. And that is heroic because it's not pretty. It's not love and light. There's no love and light in that. It's darkness and shadow and ego death and rebirth.
I meet a lot of people that come to me in this space of either being addicted to something, whether it's a substance or not, or on a prescribed medication, and they're stuck and they can't get into the healing process. And they don't realize that the medications are thwarting them from actually feeling or keeping them in a stable dissociative space. And really blocking. I look at those medications, this is my truth, is like a blocker to the subconscious. It's just not going to allow you to access what you need to access in order to get off the medications. And I'm sure you could speak a lot on how much those medications deplete your body.
Oh,
of
yeah.
Vitamins and essential minerals that help your brain actually function. So it's like you're fucked if you want to try to wean off those medications. You're in a deeper pit than you were when you first got on them.
Yeah. And it gets you physiologically stuck. And then you feel a victim to the medication. You feel that you are dependent on it to function. And that process is painful, and that takes a lot of courage and coming off of it and then letting your body rebalance and see who you are underneath the fog. But I love that you brought up that nutritional piece too, because there's so many side effects when people try to come off of medications. And yes, it's part of the neurochemistry, but it's also because your body can't find balance after it's been that depleted. So big fan of, honestly, prenatal vitamins for almost anyone on most medications.
That's
because
so good to know, because that's, I reference them. I always say, like, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, but send them various articles to read on the specific nutrient deficiencies and what those help catalyze within the body.
Yeah.
I can't believe how many people I connect to that are on a pretty good significant dose of you can guess the different medicines or combinations, 2 or 3. And they read that and they're like, holy crap, I had no idea that I'm on these different these medications that are contributing to my depression or anxiety, and that should I wean, I could go into a deeper hole. Yeah. And so just, giving them the knowledge that their doctors don't do.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just that. And then they have to sit and process that. Because there's dissonance between, like, they thought they were in the care of somebody, and then they get this truth, and it's like, it's very overwhelming, and you have to go through, like, I'm holding space for anger and sadness just at the onset of just them understanding these basic things that they weren't aware of.
And, I always like to semi-defend the medical doctors, because most people go into medicine because they want to help people. And unfortunately, they are under the control of the pharmaceutical industry. So they are only taught pharmaceuticals. So they don't have these other tools that I am so fucking lucky that I have, because I chose to go an alternative route. But even then, to choose to do something against the grain, which is essentially what both of us do, just in different flavors of reality, it takes a lot of courage, and you have to deal with all the people telling you that you're wrong or shaming you for taking a different path. And that's always fun, but
that comes at me quite a bit.
I'm sure it does.
On Instagram, when I post different things.
Oh, I love everything that you post.
And I didn't used to be very adept at handling the projections. I'm curious what your journey is there. But when I first started coming out and speaking about these different things, you're basically making people confront themselves. And when they don't want to do that, what do? They just project. And so it's like anger and how dare you, and you're shaming, you're doing these different things. And you're like, you might want to sit with that and see, why is this truth so disturbing to you? But I've taken it from my perspective on Adderall and Ritalin and the long-term effects of that, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
I do.
Yeah. Yes. I meet a lot of people bless them, they're amazing. The clients that come to me who have been on these medications and then graduate to Adderall after, and they don't understand why their life is and their relationships are so dysfunctional. But it's like it's been in their body for so long. And anyway, it's a sad state of affairs out there with these overprescribed medications.
Yeah. Yeah, I deal with it in a myriad of ways. It really depends on who I'm talking to and their level of openness. But I'm also just very sarcastic, I would say. And just my love language, being a New Yorker, you being born of New Yorkers, you understand. But usually when someone's like, I don't know, I'm thinking about starting Adderall. I'm like, why don't you just try meth?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I truly do.
Some cocaine
and they're
you.
Like, what do you mean? And I'm like, yeah, why don't you just do a line? See if that works for you. And people do the best with the information that they have. And like you said, so many people are trusting someone to tell them what they need instead of dropping in and actually recognize what they need.
Right. Yeah. When you think about it, just with parents of children, and I have my own little side story, witnessing my daughter, who was a high schooler, navigating COVID, not being allowed to go back into school, and me just saying, it's okay if your grades slip. It's okay. This is like, we're all going through this right now. And then watching her friends, part of the collective, parents freaking out, wondering how they're going to get their kids' grades back up. And probably half of her friends ended up on 2 different medications going back into school. in order to cope, Adderall and Zoloft
Oh,
in order to recover. So it's like these kids are going in as these little workhorsing performance, little achievers, and their parents don't know how to deal with what they lost through that experience. You know, they don't know how to help their kids manifest out of these traumatic experiences. And so I got to experience my daughter and what she was able to do with this difficult thing we were going through versus her seeing all of her friends coping and the parents supporting the process of medicating. And it was sad to see.
that's fascinating.
Yeah.
It is. And how beautiful as a parent that you gave your child permission to be open to that process and to just let it happen. We were all going through it. It doesn't mean that we numb it so that we don't go through it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she, because of that experience of COVID and her sitting with it, she had what I would consider an early life awakening, or at least she still has more to do. But it's like it really helped her sit and look at what you can make of things, and what is this teaching you? What is this telling you? And she learned just how much the social pressures of school were overwhelming. Her academics and everything, she just lost her sense of self. She ended up pouring into her creative self and doing music and exploring other giftings and made it through.
I love that.
Can't say the same about her friends.
Yeah. I can't say
And
the
I'm not
same.
connected to those parents. And it's really hard. You can't teach or guide somebody who's not seeking. It's the worst. And I've had to learn that. It's like, they're just telling me this story. They're not asking for my help. Shut up and listen. That's my, I try not to do the unsolicited advice, but it was very hard. I wanted to send parents articles and intervene, but I've learned that I need to go where I am guided and allowed.
Yeah. And that is key too, right? Because even in you sharing and then getting that negative feedback, it's because those people weren't open to even hear what you said. So they didn't hear it. And instead they just heard their own traumas being repeated in their heads and pointed it and reflected it right back at you. And
yes. And my comment to those, and maybe this will something good for you. I'm curious how you respond, or if I used to not respond. Or I'd block or whatever. But now I say, if you want to approach me with a curiosity and a desire to create connection about this, I'll do the same for you. I'd love to hear how you got to that point. If you can hear, it's like some people are so blocked to being open and creating connection, they just go right into the projection. And that, that's that's humanity at large now.
Yeah.
I think I either see people that are part of this collective awakening and they're like challenging beliefs and they're like wanting to understand why they feel these things and what's programmed them. And then there's people who just have way too thick programming and can't see beyond their limited mind.
Yeah.
And they show up. And Instagram is a great platform.
It really is.
No accountability. It's just like shit and run.
It is like a shit and run tactic. Yeah. For me, I think I just approach those situations in a funny way, because if I speak something and if I feel that it's my truth, I have no doubt and I will speak it and it flows out of me. But even in that confidence, I'm open to learn. My truth is changing all the time as I change and as I grow. So usually when people verbally attack me or say something, I usually respond something along the lines of, "That was so sweet of you."
I used to do that. Do you want to know what I get when I do that?
What?
But you're the loving guide.
Oh, yeah, I'm not.
I get my name thrown in my face. I'm like, the loving guide can't be cheeky. She can't be sarcastic. She can't be playful. Is it so linear? I have to always be blowing rainbows at people's asses just because I'm a loving guide? That's not how I got here. Like, that comes with fierceness. It comes with reflection. It doesn't come with bending over and taking it in the ass. It just doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
And people, when I say that, I'm like, part of me, I get triggered. I'm like, oh, they don't understand what it took to be the loving guide.
Yeah. What did it take to be the loving guide?
Where do we begin?
Where do we begin?
Probably the beginning of my evolution was leaving my partner in 2013, leaving a dead marriage with 3 kids. That at that time, 2, 7, and 8, like just being done, trying everything, trying therapy, trying to make it work, trying to, I guess, relate out of obligation and just assume that this is just what you do. This is what I signed up for. I made my bed and now I have to lie in it, to exiting that relationship in a really radical, traumatic, urgent way. and ironically doing what I would not recommend other people do. I started dating. This is before swiping. I think, I had 3 kids at home. I was a sole provider. My ex was living with his parents and in a fairly, suicidal place. So it was like the weight on me. And I was teaching art at the time. And I basically went on to Match.com, created a profile with the intent. Really, when I sit back and think, it wasn't that I thought I would find love again. It was, I don't know who the fuck I am outside of this. I met him at 26. I hadn't grown at all in the relationship. So I just wanted to see what was out there. And I met somebody who was also going through a very traumatic divorce, also with 3 kids. Went on a couple dates, laughed at each other, thought, you have so much drama, I have so much drama, let's just be friends and date. And fell in love. I should say, I hate using that. Shame on me. I should say we fell into growth. We rose in love. There was a soul connection. And the joke that I said in the beginning about something I would never tell people to do, because by societal standards and pressures, it would be, you've got 3 kids, you need to sit with yourself, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I didn't listen to any of it. I just followed what I wanted to do. And obviously it's 10 years later. I don't know if I would have been so excited to share that story had it been like 3 months after, because I'd be like, well, there's still time. But 10 years of growth and advancement and doing a ton of work that I never got to do on myself because I didn't have the time, energy, or the means. And so that led to starting a platform to share it, to share our journey, my awakening journey, and also the nuances of opening our relationship from monogamy to non-monogamy, and literally just using my platform anonymously to share what I was confronting within myself and hashtagging my way through and informally began to help people. And so it's kind of, I guess, the beginning of how I got to where I was. And so I had to balance that teaching art with helping people just in DM and really feeling like that was my calling, but that I didn't know that I was equipped or should be doing that. So it was a lot of confrontation. And then went to an intuitive guide and started doing a lot more deep work on myself. And she had said something to me along the lines of, in a few years, you're not going to be anonymous on Instagram anymore, and you're going to be like formally coaching people. And I actually stopped working with her when she said that because I thought she was out of her mind. I mean, that's how disconnected I was from my path. And then COVID happened. And so I was able to really dedicate more time into coming out of teaching, which was very passion driven and very financially driven, teaching children art, to really cultivate this path from a more connected space and ultimately get out of the way. That's kind of the nutshell of it.
I love it. And it's funny because I can even think of certain things on my path. Certain things on my path were very clear. I always knew I wanted to be a doctor, but did I ever know I was going to be a naturopathic doctor? No. I had chances to shadow naturopathic doctors. I remember even people were like, you might be interested in that. And I laughed in their face being like, psh, I'm a real doctor, so I'm not going to shadow them. Here I am, a naturopath. I remember when I was practicing yoga in my living room, my house in New York, my brother said, you should do a teacher training. And I laughed in his face. So sometimes we don't realize that it's for us until it's standing in front of us and it's just a fuck yes. Because before then, it's all the doubt, right? It's all the imposter bullshit. It's all the why me? I'm not worthy. I don't have the skills. And
it still comes up for me.
Yeah.
It's been almost 4 years, thousands of hours of coaching, hundreds of clients, tons of positive feedback. And I still have those moments. And it's a frequency thing. And I think it also helps me rise in those moments because, the ego's there to create resistance. It's to continue to keep us humble before ourselves. I have a ton of lessons in that. And sometimes I'm like, can I just get a break? Can I get a break and just feel really good about what I'm doing, And I think it obviously comes from my upbringing, and there was tons of shame and guilt growing up, and lots of, I listened to one of your episodes about your ACE score.
Yes.
I'm a 7 and tons of lowercase t trauma. So I'm like, I got to be compassionate to myself. I have had to ward off so much negativity coming at me, and it's just that inner voice trying to circumvent the truth of my existence. And I know it's just like a vibration, and I have to just talk. It's the inner child. It's like, you're okay, you got this, you're awesome, all the things that you didn't get when you were trying new things. And so I've really had to look at it as, it's like, fuck you for doing this to me, universe, but thank you, because it's definitely helped me. And also just relating with clients and their own limited scope of themselves and their lack and their scarcity and all those things. It's like, I can so deeply resonate with where they are, because I was not born this way. I wasn't born outgoing and truth speaking, and I wasn't born helping people from a genuine place. I always did it from a place of needs, and I wanted to be accepted and loved. Like, nothing about me was authentic. I wasn't taught how to be authentic. It was always, you're going to behave this way for somebody else to accept you. And so, I had to completely reprogram and rework that. So when people come to me with the same thing, I'm just like, I get it. I'm still in it. Like, I'm still doing that work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even coming and doing a podcast, I'm like, wow, like, I'm going to get nervous. I'm going to draw a blank. I always do. I had my one moment, and then it takes time to like slip into comfortability. But yeah, they're at least once a month. I get that, are you really good at what you do? I'm curious if you have those. I'm gonna interview you.
Yeah.
Do you have those moments where things, sometimes it's the universe, sometimes it's a situation or a confrontation or a client, or, there's a lot of different variables that send me into a place of self-doubt.
Yeah. I do experience those. When I first opened up my medical practice, I remember thinking, what? I remember just being blown away that it was that time and that I had enough information in my brain to help people. I had no supervising physician. I had no one that I could lean on for questions. And truly, my first patient came in. She said she had ear pain. I'm like, great, otitis media, easy. I got herbs. If she needs antibiotics, I can do that. Like, we got this so easy. Look in her ear. There was a tumor in there. And that was the universe's way of being like, baby girl, you're a doctor now. What are you going to do? And I remember calling my friend after, because it's beautiful that so many of my friends are doctors. And I'm like, you want to fucking believe what my first patient was? Like, she had a tumor. I had to refer her out. And it's humbling, but it's also, I'm recognizing that I am doing the best I can with the knowledge that I have, and that I'm always doing the best that I can. So even when I share with patients, my best is often way more than they've ever received from someone that I might perceive knows more than me, just based on my approach and my openness to speak, my openness to listen, to hear them and their concerns. And I think that is also something that the universe will then give me those little nuggets when I need them, when I'm doubting myself. Those are the days that I'll get a message from a patient telling me that I changed their life and they feel so much better, or that this happened or that happened. Yeah. And it's, it's those little whispers that will overpower any of the doubt. And also, I am just so confident in my path now and my purpose here that it's far and few between, but it does show up. Right. And I think that one of the best things about you and how you show up is that you are concurrently doing the work and you're reflecting. You're saying, I've been there too. I understand. Versus a therapist who is just sitting there and speaking from this leveled place.
The pedestal or the hierarchical effect.
Yeah, just being like, you mere human.
Right. Yeah. One of the things that when I first meet a client is just shattering that hierarchical structure. And also, I'm like, I'm going to tell you everything that comes out of my mouth to guide you. Like, I'm talking to the conscious self and the unconscious self. And yeah, sometimes I'm not going to be perfect. I'm not going to get it right. But I'll tell them, this information I'm going to share, or after I share it, is from my life experience, or I hold bias here. This is kind of activating because of this. So I can feel my girlfriend archetype coming through. So I probably would be the best resource, blah, blah, blah. I am as authentic as I can, as much as I can tap into. And because I think I have read all the chapters of my book, like over and over and over again, I know where I'm limited. I know where my scope ends. And I think in those vulnerable containers is where we heal. I mean, you heal having conversations with friends and in the relatable space versus in that hierarchical space. We feel like that person is the teacher and I am the student. And sure, yes, in some degrees, maybe I do know more than they do about certain things, but also hearing their journey and tapping into their experience is actually knowledge that then I get to apply as wisdom, as data to help other people. So it's like it all gets put through this big sieve and it's a gift. I mean, you know, when you connect to people and they tell you, it's helping you, it's guiding you. And yeah, it's helping you be better at what you're doing, every single human you connect to. And so, yeah, I don't want them to feel like there is this, they can't reflect to me or they can't say, oh, you said this, where did you get that from?
Yeah.
Like, you can say that to somebody with I don't want to say all psychologists are like that, but there usually seems to be some sort of barrier between their vulnerability and what they're willing to share and the clients. And I'm just like, nope. And it asks me what experience I have with whatever you're going through, and I will share. And if there's something I don't want to share with you, I'll tell you. But really I don't think that's ever happened.
I know it's this idea, and you know, there's a side of me that is an absolute scientist and a nerd, but there's the other side of me that is a realist and a human, and I understand the corruption that goes into that space. So if someone's like, well, can you send me a research article on that? That's like one of my biggest pet peeves. I'm like, maybe, but this is just a truth that is flowing out of me.
Right.
So there has to be that humanity in any occupation. And that's something that I set up in the first visit that I have with anyone. I say, I want you to feel like you're talking to a friend. Right. I want you to feel like you can tell me anything. I am not better than you. The knowledge that I'm going to share with you is our knowledge about our bodies. So ask me anything.
You set that tone. It's like, just two humans.
Trying to figure it out. We don't know what's going on. We're trying our damn best every day.
Train doctors. I could send you a few that could use some training with their bedside manner.
They'll be like, this doctor who wears hoops and has a nose ring and said, fuck, no, I don't want to learn from her. And I'll be like, okay, no problem.
I'm not for you.
I'm not for you.
Yeah. You know, we're not for everybody. I'd say, I don't know, you probably are for everybody.
Oh, I'm definitely not for everybody. Really? Oh, no. I can't believe that you said that. No, not at all. Oh, I am a trigger fest to so many people.
Oh, I guess to people that come in and they have more of an authority and they know or they've been to other, I'm sure there's scenarios.
Oh, yeah. So before I even have a patient, I do an intro call so that they could get a feel for my personality, so I could get a feel for theirs. And they're interviewing me, but I'm interviewing them. And if we are not in alignment, and if I can feel that staticky, or if I can feel through the phone that I'm triggering them, it's a no. It's for us both.
Yeah. I've had a handful of those. Yeah. Or you have, I mean, maybe you don't see this in your profession, but I will have clients that unawareingly will create this sort of parent-child dynamic.
Yeah.
Where I'm almost the mother figure and they're doing things to please me. Like, I did this work, I did my shadow work. And I'm like, and if I see that dynamic unfold where there's so much worship, or they're like posting and I'm working with them, I'm like, I am like, if you make me into somebody, I will make myself into a nobody. Like, don't do it, because that codependent dynamic in coaching is so toxic. And it actually is part of what's, I think, an epidemic in the coaching community is this sort of worshipy bullshit stuff that actually turns me completely off. Like, I want my clients to feel safe to like come to me if they want to confront me about something, or if there's something I said they need more clarity. I don't want them all looking at me in this sort of like childlike way, but sometimes that just happens just by proxy of our human psyche. And they have somebody that is, I do have a maternal, caring, friendly energy, and they'll try to put me into these various little roles in their life to meet up with their little sub-personalities. And I get it. Like, I was that way with my first guide. I was just like, but she loved it. She loved being an authority over my life. And yeah, she was not a loving guide, but she was what I needed at that time. But I like to flip the script on that. And if I do sense that, I where there's a codependency developing, I'm like, maybe you might need to work with somebody else because I feel like you're doing this work for me and you're not doing it for you. It's happened a handful of times, and it's pretty potent when it happens. Those sort of worshipy, or constantly texting me and letting me know everything in between our sessions.
Yeah. Boundaries in place.
Yeah. And they sometimes don't have that. And I have to very gently engage boundaries without, hurting them. And sometimes it does. And then they go away. And it's just, I got to align with myself, and everything else just does what it needs to do, as you know.
Yeah. And this codependency piece, I feel like you use the word epidemic, but I feel like there is this opening up of our consciousness to the codependency that we have in all levels, whether it's, with friends or with, partners, and it's coming to an end and it's shattering. And I've seen it happen in my life. I'm seeing it happen in my friends' lives. So have you seen that just in the work that you're doing, or?
Yeah, I think in general, I don't know. I'm sure someone could say this every 5 years, but I feel like we're in a big ceremony, like that there's a lot of collective stuff going on, and you could see it happening just globally, politically. And I think people are getting more uncomfortable, thinking, oh, everything's great. And, now there's just a lot more that we're tapped into through social media about what's happening. And I think it's making people lose their comfort in the systems and the structures. And so when that starts to break down, it's like, holy shit, I can't look to the government to create safety or structure or certainty. And that's all an illusion. And I think it just kind of breaks down people psychologically, and they're forced to create safety within themselves. And with that, you're going to be confronting, codependent aspects. So I just think there's a lot going on collectively that's calling people in to examining the different external forces that they rely on to create different illusions for themselves.
Yeah. Wow. That was a powerful statement, honestly. And
you finally got one out.
Yeah. No, oh, girl, there's been plenty of them, but that one was so good. And even as you were speaking, I just had these visions of, we like to be comfortable and we like to be distracted. We like to be numb. We like to trust. And the veil has been quite thinned out as far as how far off we are from that reality. And it's almost as if collectively we're seeing the shadows of the universe and the shadows, especially, of this planet that we exist on. And because of that, we have to see those macroscopic shadows on the microscopic scale inside of us and what we are doing to contribute to that broken system. And that hurts.
Yeah, we're not separate. There's, we're coming out of this sort of individualistic identity of like the I, me, my, and it's like, oh, wait a second, like these things are systemic, and I am a part of this, and now I need to, what I shit on and see in another, I have to look and see where that exists within me, and how can I break those systems down. And so I think there are people that are getting that, and they're resourcing themselves with knowledge, because it's out there's so much information now on this sort of stuff that's happening. But if you're not tuned in and your social media is like celebrity or it just really depends on what you're looking at. But if you're looking at stuff around consciousness, you'll learn more about what's going on and how to use it as a tool for your own growth versus just pointing at, oh, that's fucked up and I can't believe this is going on. It's like just looking at everything outside of self.
Yeah. That's one of my biggest pet peeves, people that talk shit and then are just like, oh, I'm just going to watch football on Sunday. I'm like, what are you doing? Yeah. In this world. You have to be the change, and that change can only happen if you sit in your darkness.
Absolutely. And also realize that the system itself is just designed so that you don't grow.
It is.
I mean, ultimately, in its simplest form, it's like we're supposed to be blinded, so we continue to be working class slaves and be in separateness and disillusioned and suffer.
Dependent.
Yeah, dependent. And so I think there's a reconfiguring happening, it seems. But then, like, when I talk to other intuitives or people that are tapped in, like, the veil's been thinning for a really long time. And it's like, I know, but for me, like the way I see it in my last decade, like the stuff that I am aware of now and know, I had no clue of. I didn't even feel it in my body because I wasn't in it. I was in the program. I was just surviving in a trauma response, intellectualizing my way through life. I had no concept of anything about how to exist in my body and intuit my way, or that I had any control over the creation of my reality. Yes. I mean, yes, I don't think we there's a lot of things about how we manifest. It's not all, we don't create, we're in co-creation with all the things, even with our own privilege and the different things that we get through our education or the color of our skin, money, wealth, whatever. But yeah, there's some interesting stuff going on.
Yeah.
The veil's thin for me, too thin. I'm like, fuck, turn that shit down.
Yeah, I know. It's a really insane time to be alive in the best way. And I always like to nerd out on the fact that we can only see what comes to conscious awareness is only what we want to see and what we allow to see. And it's that idea of if you believe in magic, you'll see it everywhere. But if you don't, you will never see it. And that's something that I approach with my patients as well. If you are not open to receive a certain form of medicine, it's not for you. So what are you open to? What's a yes for you? What do you resonate with? But on this collective scale and just even what's going on in our sweet little brains, we have this almost train station called the thalamus, which allows different sensory things to go up to the frontal lobe and to tell us that it exists. And I've fucked around with this, honestly. I've fucked around with my sweet little thalamus, being like, thalamus, I want to see this, and then meditate on it.
Oh, meditate?
Yeah, I meditate with it. Well, no, this is actually a really fun story.
I was like, does this involve drugs?
No drugs, just whatever endogenous drugs I create. But I have always, ever since I was little, believed in magic. And I can thank my brother for this too, because we shared a bedroom and we just had bunk beds and we would stay up late. And we were never given any bounds of what is real and what isn't real. We weren't raised with religion. We weren't raised with any limiting beliefs in that sense. So we would just talk about it all. So I feel like from my youngest form of myself, I was just open to it all. Anything is possible. And in medical school, we had someone come and talk who was a energy worker. I don't even know what she was, but she had us all bring in a spoon, and it was a metal spoon, a stainless steel spoon. And we had to try to bend it before. We all tried to bend it. And then she had us hold it and meditate and pretend that our hands were on fire. And I did that. And at the end, we tried to bend the spoon. And I did that. And the whole time I was like, this spoon is on fucking fire. It's getting so hot. I'm going to bend it. It's going to be great. And then after that, mine bent. I bent and I twisted it up in this fun little pattern. Probably only 2 other individuals in that room of 100 people could do it. And it's because I was fully there. I fully sent my energy towards it. It happened. And in that same visit, she was the one who was talking about the thalamus and things coming to conscious awareness. And she was talking about auras. And she was standing up against a whiteboard, and someone raised their hand and said, okay, you're talking about all these things. How can I see it? And she said, you just have to demand and state very clearly to the universe that you want to see it. So I closed my eyes in that moment. I'm like, universe, it's time. It's time to see auras. And I blinked my eyes open, and I fuck you not. She was glowing blue. So ever since that moment, I can see auras now. And I think it's just the confidence behind it, right? And very clearly, without a doubt, aligning in that frequency. Because if there is doubt, not all of you will be there.
Isn't that called quantum? Isn't that quantum physics? Isn't that?
Probably. I'm not a physicist. I really hated physics.
Okay. I was thinking like something about being able to make something happen by willing it into fruition.
Yeah.
That we can create that.
I will levitate in this lifetime. I will do it all. And it's because I fully believe that I can. So that's how I know that I will.
I mean, energy is everything. It is. And I think when you surrender to that, it's like if you're not open to that, or if you don't have a belief that there is something beyond the 5 senses, that there is energy, there is power, there is matter. You are definitely, your veil is, your programming's thick, and you're going to miss out on a lot of the mystic, amusing things that happen out in the universe, signs and synchronicities. But again, I think there are people that are not supposed to get to that point. So it's,
yeah, maybe not in this life.
I think in viewing everything kind of like a simulation within this great universe, there are people that are going to be awakening to that, and there's going to be people that are going to be asleep. They're just not meant to get it in this life. And I think it can be very frustrating. It's like we see certain things and feel certain things, and we're like, how do they have that belief system? But yeah, it's some interesting stuff, spiritual development.
Yeah.
I'm still a babe.
Same. Yeah. And my beliefs, like I said in the beginning of this, are changing all the time because I'm open to have it changed. But one of my favorite things about myself is that when I'm confident, I stand in it and I am fiery in it, which is one of my gifts, I think. The fire.
I agree. Are you an Aries?
No, I'm a Leo.
Oh, that's
What are
right.
you?
I'm a Sag.
Yes, Sag Queen.
I'm
I
full
love
on
this.
Sag, except for when I'm like nervous and in front of a camera.
Oh, no, you're still a Sag.
I'm definitely like I'm a full on Sag. Yeah.
What's your moon?
Libra,
Oh, okay. What's your rising?
Scorpio.
Wow. Love it for you.
And
For
I'm
us.
I would love to have more astrology under my belt, but I don't.
Yeah, I don't have much either. I just, when my life was in the exploding phase and I didn't know what was going on at all,
It helps.
it really helped me.
Yeah.
I looked at my birth chart and that was actually the first time that I went to a psychic medium, which blew me away in the best way possible. And I think that for a lot of this stuff, there's probably some listeners being like, come on, that's all bullshit. And I like to remind people that no one can tell you what's true and not true. And when you feel something, when you feel truth resonate in your body, it is undeniable because it's fully in alignment and it feels true. It feels different. It feels different for me. It's a deep knowing rather than anything intellectual because our little human brains don't understand a lot of this shit and they're not supposed to.
Right. I've gone to a few like spirit guide channelers. I usually consult other intuitives when I'm in a deep loop and I can't seem to figure out why the fuck this thing is happening to me. And I'm just in a victim space. And it happens probably once or twice a year. And I'm so glad. I'm glad that sometimes I'm fully defeated and I need help because it is, it's a reminder like those helping people need help. Like every now and then I need to have someone do energy work on me or I need to have somebody work on me or listen or hold space for me. But yeah, the spirit guides channeling at times have like where I would just bawl from the information. It's just something so simple. And I'm just like, oh, just a place that I couldn't get to on my own.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, psychic mediums and astrologers are great. They're great tools.
They are.
And I think the best astrologers are really going to lay things out for you, but also encourage free will and tell you what's going on. But yeah, getting my natal chart read was profound and nailing specific points on my life timeline.
Yes.
Like about relationships, about parents, about these things. And I was like, how the fuck how is that written in the stars?
It's written in the stars.
And once I had that natal reading, I was sold. I'm like, I don't fucking understand it,
Yeah.
but I know it's true.
Yes.
And when shit's going on and energy stirring in me, I will go look and I'll go, oh, that's why I'm being confronted in my relationship. That's why this is happening. Or that's why I'm so exhausted. It's always great to be able to point at something else when you feel like shit. It's a way to like have it's like, oh, I'm not just losing my mind.
Yeah.
There is cosmic energy that does play in. And that's also a great thing to tell when I have clients come to me who don't have any spiritual backdrop. And I'm like, oh God, like a baby, there's so much I got to share. Like, what do I tell you? And, and it's like, do you believe in that? Once you start giving them just little tidbits of different things that you're knowledgeable on, they're like, oh, I'm not totally losing my mind. There's something that's catalyzing, that's calling me into a deeper healing, a deeper sense of myself, or calling me in to like get out of a certain relationship or restructure something or quit my job. There's so often they can't see, beyond their scenario. And those things are great tools for sure.
I love it. And I'm grateful for all the people in my life that are able to tell me things that I know, but for some reason I wouldn't believe. Because like you said, it could be something so simple, but then it resonates true. Or you just sob and you don't know why you're sobbing. And it's because that truth is shaking up some energy and starting to move and, alchemize that process. And I think that's another reason too why guides like you are so important, because you are reaching out for help when you need it, because you aren't on that pedestal. You're saying, I am actively doing this work. And I think that if there is ever a coach or a guru or a teacher that doesn't do that, I personally don't trust them.
Oh, I wouldn't trust anyone who doesn't. I mean, just having like relational perspective, meaning like accountability, having somebody in your life that calls you out on your shit. And there are a lot of coaches masquerading as space holders and helpers that don't have any sort of conscious relationship with, doesn't have to be in a partnership, but just any mentor, any guide, anyone that is holding them accountable and saying, you might want to think about that, or that maybe you want to examine this, or what you said is probably sounds very biased, or just anything, I wouldn't trust them.
No.
And also, it's important, whoever you're getting guidance from should be working on themselves with somebody, and also understanding that you can't give from an empty cup. I mean, we all know that. And I hit those points because it's daily, hourly check-in when you're helping people, when you're working with energetics of other humans. I mean, it should cross over in every career because everybody is energy. I'm not saying the person who works checking bags at the grocery store they're still going to be dealing with different people.
Oh yeah, lots of energy there.
When it comes to space holding and you're dealing with the density of someone's unprocessed emotions coming through in language, it's like sometimes they're sharing something in an intellectual place and I will be feeling it in my body. And I'm like, okay, wow, that was really dense. I thought we were going to be talking about this, but I felt all that. And then I think I need to not do my next session. And I think that's definitely, all right. I like segued, but that's been like a big thing for me, especially with being a mother and having so many different things in my world, that its energy is like feast or famine. I'm not sure how you are. You probably hit moments with clients or you take on something, whether it's just empathy for somebody else. If you just allow yourself, sometimes allowing myself to feel I need to in order to create connection, I'm like, okay, well, that just drained me. I gave it all, and now I need a day off.
Yes. And it took me a while to recognize that. I think boundaries is still something that I'm working on. I've done a lot of work around it. I always now have crystals in my pockets when I am with anyone in that space, because they help me ground. I have my feet on the earth. If I feel, we could talk about autonomic nervous system stuff, but I can feel myself starting to go into a sympathetic nervous system. And I can tell that I'm having a trauma response based on something that they're saying that is awakening a really fun memory or something in me. So if my legs are crossed, I uncross them. I put them flat on the ground. I put my hands on my thighs. Yeah. And I just take, exactly right. Focus your gaze. And then I take some deep breaths. But for me, I can easily burn out, and this is still something that I'm working on, and it is because of putting someone else's needs before my own. And as a doctor, as a yoga teacher, as whatever it is that I am, as a human, I love to give, and then I can't show up for humans if I haven't filled up my own little precious cup. And that involves me seeing my doctor, me getting craniosacral therapy, me getting acupuncture, me talking to my therapist, all the things that I recommend my patients to do. And sometimes too, I'll say something to someone and realize that it was actually for me. That I needed to do it. And then I'll giggle and move on. But I'm curious too, what are some of your favorite ways to practice boundaries?
While I'm in general in life, like grounding, probably checking in intermittently before I'm going to make a plan with somebody. And I think, especially this last year, I've gotten to a point where I do not want to make any plans. Making plans has been just because, I have one son who's a type 1 diabetic. I have another one deathly allergic to bees. I have my daughter, there's my partner in the house working from home. There's always so much energy and things can change so quickly. And I have found that life has been, I don't want to call it transient, but energy just comes and goes rather quickly. So for me, my own boundaries are around just not making plans where somebody has to rely on me, unless it's a plan that I have to make. If it's a commitment that I have to make, I always have trepidation when I have something that's set that I have to do where there's no way out of it. I also schedule clients at times around when I'm not on my bleed, when I'm not mooning.
Great.
And that's just because it's a really purgative time for me. Yes. I'm really dealing with my own stuff, and it's really hard to show up for somebody else without crisscrossing energies. It's not safe for them. I wouldn't do energy work. I wouldn't coach. And it may sound dramatic, and I think, no, it doesn't.
No, I love it.
And I happen to have, I'm going to call it privilege, but I have the, yes, it's the privilege. I have the privilege of structuring my life so that I can care for myself in ways that I didn't before, where I don't have to go into self-betrayal. And I had a good 40 something years of self-betrayal. So I think being able to have my life structured in a way so that I'm not doing something that isn't a full fuck yes. So yeah, I guess the boundaries around, just how I schedule clients. And then I give them permission to cancel last minute, which is probably relatively unheard of. They're not allowed no shows, but they have to give me like an hour or two notice if they're going through something, and I just trust it. And then the same goes for me. I don't do it, that quickly, but just having permission to just say something is going on. But more so for me, like if I'm not in a good space, I'm going to be in my own story. I'm not going to be able to be an adequate space holder. I won't be able to give them authentic empathy, excuse me. So, and I think that's really important. And in general, we exist in a world where people are vomiting energy all over each other without consent, which is something I teach people. It's like, and you know how it feels in your body. You're talking about your sympathetic nervous system. Like for me, when I'm going into a place where like I want to stop something that's happening, it's like my throat chokes, tension in my body, and trying to really tune into what my body is doing at different moments when I think, oh, I'm okay right now, just listening to the body more and developing my boundaries from that. But I've gotten so, I don't want to call it brazen, but so authentic. If I am out somewhere, and it could be with a friend that I don't know, and they are talking to me and they are sharing something that is dense and they have not asked me, I will stop them.
Yes.
And I will be like, I'm dealing with my own stuff right now, or blah, blah, blah. I will say like, and this has happened before, even being out in a party space, that I'm the person, if I go into any place where there's drinking, people will come up to me because of my radiant energy. And I say that because they'll say, I see you over there. I'm like, I know, I'm really fucking happy. I've done a lot of work on myself. And I'm not like 3 sheets to the wind with my like 4th shot like you. So get the fuck away from me. Yeah. But what I do is I'm like, thank you. And then they're like, oh, da da da, and they just they compliment something about me. Yeah. And this is a pattern I've seen. They'll compliment something about me, and then they will go into some vulnerable story.
Interesting.
I mean, Jason's like, I left you alone. I'm like, get there, like people, they come, And so I have to I've had boundaries. There's times where I'll have a business card. I'm like, I really want to listen to what you're saying, but right now I'm out listening to this music and I really want to dance. But what you have to say is really valid and important, and it deserves someone that can really hold space for it. Here's my card. This is what I do for a living. And then I'm out.
Yes.
So that's been something that I've had to do quite often. It will happen in the bathroom. It'll happen anywhere, it's like, it is there. Like I've read about it before, so I know this is not unique to me, is that people who vibrate higher or, not in the light and love space, but if I'm out of the house, I'm fucking happy.
Yeah.
When I'm not happy, I'm home.
Yeah.
I'm not at the bar drinking, ready to vomit myself. That's just me. And I never really was that. I always was a person that sat or drew or colored. That was one thing that kept me off of definitely substances, addictions and things, was I was always in the creative space, drama and things like that. But yeah, being out, I'm a magnet for that density. Yeah. And I've seen it play itself out. And I'm not trying to call this in, but a couple of different people have told me this about me, intuitives, both on like sacred plant substances and off, that I'm a vessel for human suffering. And I'm like, fucking great.
Great.
I'm glad that I know that.
Yeah.
So I have to tread really lightly. I usually have my rocks on me. And also I view my tattoos as ways to protect my energy. But I've had to really learn the art of no, stop, bye.
Yes. Yes. And
it's so hard.
It's so hard. And I giggle because I can so relate. I can so relate. I just don't do well around people that are drinking in general. Even if it's just a couple drinks, I don't do well around them because I have a family history of alcoholism, and it's my biggest wound. It's just my biggest wound to be around someone who is drunk. If you have a purple mouth from drinking wine, know that I can't talk to you. I just straight up can't. And I've even told people that I date before, I can't go there. Or if I do go there, if I get to a certain point and if my nervous system starts to freak out, I have to leave, and I will leave. And that's me saying no to that situation and yes to myself. But takes a lot of courage to say yes to yourself and to say no to someone else and putting that boundary in place. And it's also hilarious for me as a yoga teacher too, because after class, you know, people want to share things, and yes, I want to hear some of them, but no, I don't want to hear most of them. Right. I want to go home. I'm done. I have done my work for the day. I've held the space.
I share doesn't mean
and sometimes people come up to me and they'll say, "Can I ask you something?" And I'll say, "No." I know. And I'm like, I love you, but no. Yeah. And I don't know if it's just my ballsy New Yorker self that gives less fucks than most, but it's something that I give less fucks, but I'm still working on actively saying no and feeling okay with it.
It's better to overcourse correct too. Like people always say, how do I become more authentic? How do I be more like you? And I'm like, well, the power comes after. You have to kind of start and you step forward and you say things that are really fucking uncomfortable to say. And your power comes after. It doesn't come before. It's not easy putting up boundaries. You put up the boundaries and then the work comes. And so I think the over course correction actually is the path to doing more of the work, to being authentic and to standing in the truth. So you kind of have to go a little bit over the edge of being a bitch in order to then find your stasis point. You know, the pendulum has to swing. Yeah. You know, you have to be like, sorry, mom, not text anymore. Our relationship's toxic. And then eventually, you know, the cords get cut and you sit with it and then you come back, you're like, you know, that's kind of the way you have to do it for certain people that you're relating with in certain situations.
And, you know, I'm going to argue the bitchy thing just for a second because, you know, people are always like, New Yorkers are mean. New Yorkers are mean. New Yorkers are exquisitely loving. You just don't have to guess what their yeses and nos are. They will say no. You'll know in that second if it's a no. And I think so many people, and for me, there was such a contrast in moving to California after being born and raised in New York, and that so many people thought I was mean just for me speaking my truth, but it wasn't because I was cutting them off or because I was closing down to them or saying no to them as a human. I was just saying no to that one thing and moving on, but it was a no from love. Even last night, I was doing a lecture and someone didn't ask, and she just set up her phone and started recording. And in the middle of the lecture, which was to a bunch of students, I looked at her, I go, "Are you recording?" And she goes, "Yes." And I go, "Can you not?"
Right.
And then I could feel her get really upset. And then I had to pause and say, "I'm a blunt New Yorker. That was from love, but that is a no for me. So I am sorry." Right. But it's always fascinating to watch that play out.
Well, the people that are, I think, the most irritated with that sort of forward, brazen, speaking your truth are the ones that don't do that. And they also violate other people's boundaries too. I mean, it's not uncommon to hear like the people that hate boundaries, the ones that violate them the most. And they're used to just, like I say vomiting energy. It's very dramatic, but that literally that's trauma. What people do with their stuff. It's like, if you're going to share something with me that's dense and has charge, I want to consent to it. And I also want permission to revoke consent, you know, except in my sessions. But like with people, I'm like, you can share that with me. I'm like, whoa, that was like, okay, we're on hour number 2. Like, when are we going to, and I think we need to, you know, that's the coming into your power part, is we should be able to consent and revoke it at any time about anything.
And I think that's a really good thing to get in the habit of too. Before you share something, say, "Hey, I have something that I need to get off my chest or something that I need to just vent about. Do you have the space? Or are you open to that?" Or, you know, instead of just jumping into it and being like, "Girl, this happened today." Like,
and then we get to ask, what's your ask? Do you want me to listen? Do you want me to help? Do you want guidance? Like, ask consent, but also ask what your need is from the person too. And I think people are maturing and getting that in some way. I was never like that. I was the dumper projector, you know, talk about anything and anything everywhere. And now, you know, growing and having perspective, I was like, whoa, I was the very person that now I'm trying to get away from me. Although, like I said, I wouldn't be the person out at the bar drinking when I'm having a bad day. That has never been, I have never been a number. I'm like, what is that? I'm numbing in other ways, but not in that way. If I'm in a bad
mood, the socially acceptable way of numbing.
I wouldn't be out trying to like dump my sob story on people, but I get it. Everybody they go out and they find their places.
And also maybe they don't have people to listen, right?
They want to be held. They want, they want somebody, and they'll do it in that space. It's actually energetically dangerous. Not so much like if you're sober and somebody is talking to you and they are on a substance and they're sharing density, like it's not uncommon to take it on energetically, even if you are not sober. we're vulnerable people.
Yeah.
We have like our fields of energy, and I try to look at it that way in an extreme way. So I'm just, again, more over course corrected with who I'm going to be around and what I'm willing to listen to, and in the right container.
Yeah.
That's how I show up best.
What do you do if you feel like someone's energy got stuck to you?
There's a lot of different, you could jump in the ocean. You can take a salt bath. You can sage yourself. I look at like burning things, and it's the intention that you put behind the ritualistic act of what you're affirming for yourself. So it's like, I know I took on energy. I'm going to clear. I know a whole bunch of different witchy things that you can do. You can literally go like this, and you can like, before you even leave the house, you can like tie your energetic cords and just call a bubble of protection of light over you. You can sage yourself. You can have feathers. I don't know if you've ever been in any shamanic spaces. I never thought, I always believed in the power of feathers and crystals, but then being on sacred plant medicines, things like ayahuasca mushrooms, and seeing the actual, because the realms are open and you can experience more beyond the five senses. But feathers are an amazing grounding, powerful tool to wipe energy off you. Also selenite sticks.
Yes.
But yeah, in the simplest form, carrying rocks is great, but also just going like this.
Yeah.
And I used to see people do that before I was a Reiki practitioner. I'd be like, that is such bullshit. Like, swiping shit off you. But like, I believe it now. There's so much that I dismissed and thought was bullshit, then went into studying it as theory, and then seeing it apply in my life. And I'm like, okay, I'm a believer. And you know what? It doesn't hurt to believe that.
Yeah.
That going like this gets bad energy off you.
Yeah.
Like it's not causing anyone harm.
It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd say, that's the way. But yeah, there's time. I will feel it sometimes. Like it's been a while, but going into a bar, having a circumstance with somebody was a very specific story that it's coming to mind. I was just like, she just got inside me, affected me, and got home and like took a hot shower and just cleared my energy off. I was tired. We were dancing. So yeah, just basic cleansing practices. There's a lot of different ones, but I'd say jumping in the ocean, going out in the rain.
Yeah. I have no idea why this is coming to mind, but I am. Have you ever done an egg ritual with an egg?
A yoni egg?
No, like there's certain shamanic practices, which I've never had before, but where you use an egg and you draw out negative energy with the egg. And then you do something to the egg, but you don't do this egg practice.
This one.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems fun.
Yeah.
I've never done the feather. I've never done the egg. Crystal Queen.
Yeah, and that works.
Yeah.
That works. Crystals do hold. They're anything that's any of the earth elements. You can also light a candle, speak your affirmation. Candles are portals, and you can blow the candle out. There's all kinds of things that you do, and it feels good, and it's not hurting anyone. And it's about how you feel. If after you do it, you're like, okay, I feel a little bit better. Even if it's psychosomatic, it's like still placebo effect, whatever you want to call it. Just tell yourself that you got rid of this shitty energy and you're good.
Yes.
Sometimes, again, that whole situation with that woman at the bar and the feeling that I told myself was in my body could have been totally me fucking with my mind and creating a limited experience that didn't even exist.
Yeah.
We
like to do that.
We do.
Yeah.
We do. I can definitely tell myself a good story.
Me too. Oh, I could tell myself some great stories in this head. Great stories that may or may not come true because I believe them to be true then. It's a crazy thing about the mind.
Yes.
Incredible. So my beautiful friend, I've had so much fun talking about anything and everything with you. And I am just so grateful for your heart, for the way that you speak. And I would love, before we sign off today, for you to share anything with my incredible community that you feel called to share. Love bomb, truth bomb, knowledge bomb.
I look at you when I say it.
Oh, you can look at me. You could look at anything that you want.
Probably my nugget would be in speaking about authenticity and the ways that we allow ourselves to succumb to like external judgment. And so we will alter ourselves in order to be accepted. And ironically, we fear judgment so much, but by altering ourselves and changing ourselves to receive something from the external is actually us judging ourselves. And so this very thing that we so don't want anyone else to do to us, we actually do by altering our being. That's been really a nugget that I've gathered. I mean, I knew what that was, but the way of viewing that is really important because you're creating your reality. So it's like if you're judging yourself and hiding aspects of yourself, in order to not receive judgment. Listen to how ridiculous that is.
Yeah.
So that's probably my nugget.
Love it.
Yeah. Stay true to yourself. Work on being authentic so that you can express yourself out in the world and move your gifts through, because until you do, it's just going to keep knocking.
Mm-hmm.
It'll just keep knocking.
It will.
Yeah. The more you deny it. So yeah. I think we're in a time of a lot of people being called into authenticity, into being more expressed with all of the aspects of themselves, their voice, their sensuality, their sexuality. And that's like our sole purpose. It's our dharma. People are like, what's my dharma? I'm like, to just figure out who you are and express it authentically. So
I love that.
That's my nugget.
That was a beautiful nugget. That is our dharma, to just be ourselves and to show up. And that will pull you to what you're meant to do.
You don't need to be woo-woo. You don't need to be an intuitive guide. No. You don't need to be anything. Just do it with whatever you're doing, and make sure you love what you do as best as you can. And
incredible. Well, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing some of your
me
story.
on.
Of course.
Thank you for holding me through my moments of silence.
Oh, your moments of silence were barely moments of silence. And it's funny just because, I think that we think that we appear in different ways, right? Mm-hmm. And that's all that internal BS and mind talk and chatter. But I know the nervous system responses quite well. Mm-hmm. And I am grateful that even you were authentic in that.
Yeah.
Showing up as your true self. So thank you for being you. Keep on being fucking amazing, being your authentic self. And I'll keep loving you.
You too.
Yes. Thank you, friends.